Pleasant good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this evening session. My name is Kiana Beru, and today I will be your presenter. Have you ever wondered, how does my body always know what to do? How was I able to move away from that ball that was coming at me the other day? How did I know to put my hand on my face? This is all because of our nervous system. The nervous system is basically the body's sensory connector, consisting of nerves and specialized cells known as neurons that send signals to various parts of the body. The nervous system has two components, the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. According to the National Institutes of Health, the brain, spinal cord, and nerves make up the central nervous system, whilst the peripheral nervous system consists of sensory neurons, ganglia, which is a cluster of neurons, and nerves that connect to one another and to the central nervous system. There are over 100 trillion neural connections in the average human brain, so the number and location can vary. What are neurons? The neuron is a cell located within the nervous system, which is designed to carry information to other cells, muscles, or glands. This cell is responsible for receiving sensory input from the external world. The main parts of the neuron are an axon, a soma, also known as the cell body, and dendrites. However, there are other parts of the neuron, such as the synapse, myelin sheath, and nodes of Wernicke, that make them more efficient. Before you is the label structure of a neuron. So the dendrites of a neuron receives and processes information that is sent to them. The nucleus controls and regulates the cell's activities. The cell body, or the soma, carries genetic material, maintains the structure of the neuron, and provides energy to power activities. The axon carries electric signals from the soma to the end of the neighboring cell. The myelin shields the electrical signal as it passes down the axon, reducing its dissipation. The mode of Wernicke allows a quick electrical impulse to be produced along the axon. The synapsis is the site of electric nerve impulse transmissions between two nerve cells, or between a neuron and a gland or muscle cell. The axon terminals is the locations of synapses with other neurons, and neurotransmitters are processed there to interact with other neurons through these synapses. Neurons in the human nervous system are classified into three groups: sensory neurons, motor neurons, and interneurons. Motor neurons receives information from other neurons and sends instructions to your muscles, tissues, and glands. Interneurons receive input from the neurons and send it to others. Sensory neurons gathers information from both the interior and exterior of the body, then carries that information to be processed at the central nervous system. Just as humans communicate, neurons communicate as well. Neurons make contact with each other through neurotransmitters. They transmit electrical signals when activated by another neuron, which is called action potential. Whenever the dendrites receive a signal, it then transmits it to the soma as an electrical signal. If the signal is strong enough, it will then be passed on to the axon and then to the terminal buttons. Let's focus on pictures 2 and 3. The action potential travels along the axon of the presynaptic neuron towards the axon terminal. When it reaches the axon terminal, it causes the vesicles to move towards the membrane of the axon terminal. The vesicle then fuses with the membrane of the axon terminal, causing the vesicle to release the neurotransmitters into the synaptic space called the synapse. The neurotransmitters then goes into the receptors of the postsynaptic neuron. This causes an actual potential in the postsynaptic neuron. The message was transmitted by the neurotransmitter. As a result, the neurotransmitters is released back into the synaptic space. Enzymes in the synaptic space degrade some neurotransmitters, while transporter proteins transport others back to the presynaptic neuron. What are neurotransmitters? Neurotransmitters are chemical messengers that transmit messages through synapses between neurons. Neurotransmitters move through synapses and bind to the dendrites of neighboring neurons. Neurotransmitters are required by the brain to regulate a variety of functions, including heart rate, breathing, sleeping cycle, digestion, mood, concentration, appetite, and muscle movement. Some of the most common neurotransmitters discussed in neuroscience are acetylcholine. Acetylcholine is a small molecule with a direct action that mainly acts in muscles, assisting in the translation of our intentions to transition into actual actions as signals travel from neurons to muscle fibers. Dopamine is known as the pleasure chemical because it is released when humans receive a reward in exchange for their behavior. Serotonin, commonly known as the calming chemical, is known best for its mood-altering properties. Consequently, serotonin has been linked to helping to balance appetite, sleep, memory, and most recently, decision-making practices. Epinephrine, also known as adrenaline, is the body's stress response hormone. If you're running late and worried about missing your flight, epinephrine will speed up your breathing and heart rate, allowing you to breathe through security. Norepinephrine has similar effects to epinephrine, such as high blood sugar levels. Norepinephrine will also cause your blood vessels to constrict, increasing your blood pressure. GABA, also known as gamma-aminobutyric acid, is needed to provide a soothing effect that slows you down. It slows your heart rate and increases your blood pressure. GABA aids in relaxation and sleep. GABA responds well to the usual pressures of your life. Neurotransmitters and behavior. The mechanism of action and localization of neurotransmitters in the brain has provided useful knowledge about the causes of many psychiatric illnesses, such as chronic depression and chemical dependency, both in the development of drugs that enable normal flow and movement of neurotransmitter molecules. Example 1. People with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder struggle with attention, overactivity, impulse control, and distractibility. Dopamine and norepinephrine imbalances have been linked to ADHD, according to research. Example 2. Alzheimer's disease, which affects an estimated 4 million Americans, is distinguished by memory loss and eventually failure to provide for oneself. The disorder seems to be affected by the lack of basal forebrain cells that secrete acetylcholine. While several drugs to relieve the symptoms have been established, there is currently no proven cure for the disease. Example 3. There tends to be an excessive imbalance or inhibition of signals that regulate emotions, feelings, discomfort, and other stimuli of depression, which affects about 3.5% of the population. Antidepressants, which affect norepinephrine and serotonin levels in the brain, are used to relieve depression. Antidepressants contribute to the correction of excessive neurotransmitter function. To summarize, neurons are cells that specialize in information processing. Dendrites are branches of neurons that transmit input, normally from other neurons, and axons are extensions that transfer information to other cells. There are several neurotransmitters, in each of which affects a particular type of receptor and is implicated in a variety of behaviors. Thank you for your undivided attention and do have a blessed evening.